Welcome, my mages, to Sage of Fables. I'm sorry it's been a few weeks since I have uploaded a new video, but I'm excited to bring you this one, a deck that is very near and dear to my heart, a deck that I've had for quite a long time, and it's a high-power deck, high-power casual deck. Not complete with all of the super fast mana rocks, but is very powerful regardless. It is in my favorite color combination, which is Jeskai, blue, red, and white. And I don't know if you've heard, but bird's the word. That's right, it's Kykar, Wind's Fury, a legendary bird wizard. It's so beautiful. Look at that crane-like beauty. I love this baby. So, Kykar is a legendary bird wizard creature for 1 blue, red, and white, a 3/3 flyer. And the exciting text, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And it has an activated ability of sacrifice a spirit and add a red mana to your mana pool. So, this is sweet. What I immediately thought of when I saw this card was, we're going to put all of the cards that cost 1 red mana that draw a card. And it's going to be a Storm deck because I'm Sage. Hi, I like Storm. It's kind of my thing. So, with that, I guess we'll look at all of our cantrips first. So realistically, what these cards actually do is irrelevant to the deck. They are here because they cost 1 red mana and they draw a card. So with Kykar out, that means you basically get a free spell. You get to up your storm count, you play a card, you get a spirit, which you'll sacrifice for a red mana to then cast your next cantrip. So each time you're breaking even on mana and breaking even on cards, because each one's replacing itself in both mana and in cards. So, my favorite of the red cantrips is Overmaster. The next instant or sorcery spell, the next instant or sorcery spell you play this turn can't be countered by spells or abilities. Draw a card. Crimson Wisp. Target creature becomes red and gains haste until end of turn. Draw a card. Actually, kind of cool. You can give your commander haste. You can give someone else's creature haste to politically have them swing in at one of your opponents. We also have Renegade Tactics. Target creature can't block this turn. Draw a card. Sometimes can be relevant. Ryle. Ryle deals 1 damage to target creature you control. That creature gains trample until end of turn. Not very relevant. Draw a card. Expedite. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. Draw a card. Crash Through. Creatures you control gain trample. Not relevant at all. We have 1/1s. Draw a card. Warlord's Fury. Creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. Draw a card. Could matter. And then we also have Burning Inquiry. This one's kind of interesting. This one's fun because it disrupts other people's plans. Each player draws 3 cards and discards 3 cards at random. And, of course, Faithless Looting, famously banned in Modern. Red Sorcery, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards with a flashback for tuna red. So all of these are basically forming the sort of baseline, the foundation of this deck. And then everything sort of built on top of it. So this allows us to turn through our deck pretty quickly and very efficiently in terms of both cards and mana. And with that, it also fills our graveyard for things like Underworld Breach, so that we can play through and we can play all of these, play an Underworld Breach, or play a Past in Flames, and then replay these again and really help build up our storm count for things like a Grape Shot to kill people. So with that, this deck definitely isn't driven towards being able to manually storm off. Like, it can happen. Definitely having these cards, though, in the deck helps you get to all of the value pieces or your finishing pieces that you need. And especially if you have a card like Bergie out and Kykar, being able to be up 1 red mana on casting each of these is really powerful. This deck is incredibly mana hungry, especially for red mana. So Yeah, these cards are perfect, do exactly what we need. They, both card draw and basically a ritual, and so they fit two very nice categories that you need in a red-based storm deck. The four categories that I usually think about when I'm building a storm deck, whether in 60 or 100 card constructed formats, are rituals. So these are the cards that are going to be the bulk of your deck. They're the things that they're going to be the links in the chain that help you get from the lower levels to the upper levels to be able to go from your bottom level to the top to get to your finishing. So basically at the bottom, let's start at the beginning. At the bottom you have cantrips. Your cantrips are what are going to form your foundation for your deck because they allow you to churn through your deck to find the pieces that you need that you don't already have in your hand. On top of that, you have your rituals, which are really one of the most important parts because they allow you, it's what is one of the main things that allows you to chain spells together and to go up the chain in order to cast increasingly relevant cards. Your best rituals are going to be 1 or 2 mana. That you're going to be able to repeatedly cast. That's why these red cantrips are so good with Kykar out. While they don't gain you mana, the fact that they break even is really important. And with other synergy pieces that we have in the deck, they can actually give you a lot of mana. And then on top of that, then you have your protection, basically to protect yourself while you're going off, and some necessary pieces of a removal to keep you alive to be able to live to your next turn. And then you have your finishers. And so with keeping all of that in mind, what makes these cantrips so good in Kykar is that they basically fill 2 slots. And that's why I felt it was really important to lay these down as a foundation to this deck and sort of build everything around it. But this deck isn't necessarily built to manually storm off because that sounds really boring and not something that I want to do in Commander because I don't want to take a 20-minute turn and keep everyone waiting. I want to try and go off in under 2 minutes or less, or your money back guaranteed. So with that, we are running some infinite combos in this deck to try and keep things nice and clean and simple, and to be able to close the game off in one big turn. So one of the combos that we're running is classic Sensei's Divining Top combo. So Sensei's Divining Top is an artifact for 1 colorless, or for 1 generic mana. You may pay 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order, or you can tap it, draw a card, and then you put Sensei's Dividing Top on top of your library. So you combine this with one of these 2 effects, the first one being Future Sight, 2 blue, an enchantment that says play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. Or there's Elsha in the Infinite, a legendary creature, Jin Monk, for 2 blue, red, white. It is a 3/3 with prowess. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast the top card of your library if it's a non-creature, non-land card, and you may cast it as though it had flash. So both of these things basically do the same thing effectively in this deck because we only have 7 creatures in this deck. So there isn't going to be a lot that you're not going to be able to cast with Elsha. But what you're able to do is if you have Future Sight or Elsha in play and you have Sensei's Divining Top, you can, for 1, order the top, and then you tap it, draw a card, and you put Sensei's Divining Top on top of your library, and then with it there on top of your library and having Kykar out, you can spend a mana to cast the Sensei's Divining Top. Because Kykar cares when you cast non-creature spells. When you cast top, it'll give you a spirit, and then you can tap it, draw a card, and then put it on top of your library. Sacrifice that spirit for a red mana. Cast the top off the top of your library. And that's basically it. So that it gives you a way to be able to draw your deck for 1. And Elsha gets super, super big. So if you have one of your cantrips to give her haste, or the one that gives her trample, you can get through for damage and definitely kill one person. Or, and of course, over the course of drawing your deck, you're going to find other much better win conditions than that. But with that, that's one of the synergy pieces that I have to go with this combo is Mana Echoes, which is an enchantment for 2 red. Whenever a creature enters a battlefield under your control, you may add an amount of colorless mana equal to the number of creatures you control that share a creature type with it. So whenever a spirit comes in, it's going to look at how many spirits you control and then add that number of colorless, for example. And this happens whenever a creature enters the battlefield under anyone's control. So if someone plays a wizard and you have Kykar in play, you're going to get, and if Kykar is your only wizard, then you're going to get 1 colorless mana that you could do something with. Activate top, for example. Which is also part of why I like having Sensors Dividing Top around with Mana Echoes, because sometimes you just get random mana. If you haven't found your future sight yet. So with Mana Echoes and Kykar engendering spirits every time you cast a Sensei's Divining Top, if you have a couple spirits around, like say if you have like 3 spirits around, and you're just sacking, one over and over, each time you cast Sensei's Divining Top, you're going to get 3 colorless mana, which is going to become more and more and more. And eventually you basically don't need to sacrifice your spirits to generate mana, because you can just keep using the colorless mana that you get from Mana Echoes. Alright, so we have that one. We have another classic, which is the Dramatic Scepter combo. Dramatic Reversal is an instant for 1 and a blue. Untap all non-land permanents you control. And Isochron, its best friend. Could you honestly name a more iconic couple? Isochron Scepter, an artifact for 2 generic with imprint. So when it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with CMC 2 or less from your hand, and pay 2 and tap it. You may copy the exiled card. If you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So you pay 2. So you have to have something like a Soul Ring or a Basalt Monolith or a number of artifacts that are going to generate at least 2 mana in order to go infinite. So if you have like a Soul Ring and an Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal, you play the Isochron Scepter, you imprint the Dramatic Reversal under it, you tap your Soul Ring to activate your Isochron Scepter. That's going to dramatic revert. You copy and cast Dramatic Reversal, which says untap all non-land permanent. So you're going to untap your Soul Ring, untap your Scepter, and then you're free to just keep doing this forever. Until you decide to stop. So with Kykar out, that's going to get you infinite red spirit. It's going to get you infinite spirits. You can use your spirits for whatever. If you have Vago the Watcher out, you're going to draw your entire deck and then do something with that and get infinite spirits with Kykar out. There are a lot of different ways we can go. So super simple combo that's has a number of like outlets in this deck, or like different pieces that you can pair with to be able to close the game. The next one is Ralstorm Conduit, who is a Planeswalker for 2 blue-red, and whenever it has a static ability, whenever you cast a copy, an instant or sorcery spell, Ral does 1 damage to target opponent or Planeswalker. +2 to scry 1, it has a -2 whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell. Copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. And then you pair that with something like Fury Storm, which is a copy spell, for 2 red and instant. When you cast a spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone. You may choose new targets for the copy. And its text is, copy target instant or sorcery spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. So as long as that we've cast Kykar once, what the setup is going to look like is you have Ralstorm Conduit on the battlefield. You need some instant or sorcery spell like Opt, for example, 1 blue, scry 1, draw a card, and just need to have cast your commander once. So you have Ral in play, you cast Opt. maintaining priority, you cast Fury Storm targeting Opt. Since Fury Storm we'll check to see how many times you've cast your commander, and since we've cast it once, we're going to make an additional copy of Fury Storm. So now you have Opt, the original Fury Storm that you've cast, and now your copy of Fury Storm. Your original Fury Storm has to target your Opt, but the copy that you've made can now target the original Fury Storm that's still in the stack. That's going to make another copy of Fury Storm, and then you can make that copy target the previous copy of Fury Storm. And so you see, you can go on and create this infinite chain. And since Ral cares about whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery to do 1 damage, Ral's just going to go and you get to ping your opponents to death, which is one of my favorite ways to kill people. I haven't actually gotten to do this with Ral yet. It's still in the deck because I just want to kill the table doing it this once, and then I'll probably take it out. Especially because I have the really pretty promo Japanese Ral, and I'm just like, I just want to do the thing. But pinging people, it's fun, it's great. And then we technically have an Underworld Breach line in this deck, though it's definitely not the CDH one. So Underworld Breach, I've talked about before. It's the enchantment that allows you to cast things from your graveyard by paying its mana cost and also exiling 3 cards from your graveyard. So we don't have Wheel of Fortune in this deck because, I'm sorry, Wheel of Fortune is like $400 now, and I only have one. And I won't fault anyone, or I'm not going to look down on anyone who put proxies in their casual deck, but I personally don't like to put proxies of things in my casual deck. Or at least I really try not to. I really like to have the physical cards and just use what I have lying around or saving up and going out and buying them. So I'm sorry, Kykar, I love you, but I'm not going to put a Wheel of Fortune in this deck. Instead, I have Reforge the Soul, a sorcery for 3 red. Each player discards their hand and then draws 7 cards, and it has Miracle. So if this is the first card that you've drawn, you can pay 1 in a red and you get that same effect. And then we also have Battle Hymn, an instant for 1 a red to add, and you get to add red mana for each creature you control. So if you have 7 creatures in play, you have an Underworld Breach out, and you have Reforge the Soul in your hand. You can play Battle Hymn, get 7 red mana, use 5 of that to cast Reforge the Soul. You'll wheel your hand, and then now with Battle Hymn and Reforge the Soul in your graveyard, and with Underworld Breach out, which allows us to cast things from our graveyard, we'll spend that 2 red mana that we have left, and we'll recast Battle Hymn, which will get us a new fresh 7, and then we'll play Reforge the Soul from our graveyard. We'll fill up our yard some more again, and we can keep doing this until we find our win condition in order to be able to close the game out. So it's definitely not as mana efficient, but it is technically possible. I really just have all of these in here because Breach is really just a value piece. Sometimes we just really, really need to dig through and maybe recast some tutors that are in the graveyard to try and be able to turn through things. Be able to, recast some rituals and stuff like that. But I was looking through my list and I was like, oh, look at that. That's a thing this deck could do. We'll see if it ever comes up. So with all of these combos that we have in here with this sort of storm package that we've built on, well, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to actually close the game? Well, let's look at our finishers. Blam! One of my favorites, of course, is Aetherflux Reservoir, an artifact for 4 mana. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. Lasers. So that's definitely one of these things that these red cantrips are really good for, is really building up that storm count. Because, oh man, you cast 10 of them, and then you've just gained so much life, and you have effectively spent no resources to do so. And then of course, for where Jaya's, or where Mana Echoes really shines, or with our Dramatic Scepter line is with Jai's Immolating Inferno. So for X, red, a legendary sorcery. You need to control a legendary creature or planeswalker in order to cast a legendary sorcery. And Jai's Immolating Inferno does X damage each up to 3 targets. So you get shit tons of spirits, you get a shit ton of colorless mana from Mana Echoes. You do your Dramatic Scepter thing, and then you just cast Jai's Immolating Inferno for 1 billion, and you just Torrent to Fire NATO. Yes, I've definitely killed people many times with this. Then, of course, the classic Grape Shot, a sorcery for 1 and a red. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target, and it has Storm. So you will when you cast a spell, you'll copy it for the number of times equal to the number of spells that have been cast this turn. So if you have Dramatic Scepter out and 2 mana and like a Soul Ring to activate it, you can have infinite Storm count because each time you copy it and then you cast the copy. So that counts for Grape Shot. And with that, we also have Electrostatic Field and Gutter Snipe. They both fill very similar roles. Electrostatic Field is a creature wall for 1 and a red, a 0/4 with Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then Gutter Snipe for 2 and a red, a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. So yeah, this is definitely a nice way to just chip down damage over the course of the game when you're casting your cantrips. It forces people to have to remove these things, which they'll eat removal, which won't be pointed at Kykar, which is a card that you absolutely need to have pretty much in play in order to win the game, because we need those spirits. We need that value. And then our last one that we have is Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. 1 blue, a legendary planeswalker, Jace, with 4 loyalty. His static ability is if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. And it has a +1. Target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard, draw a card. Very famously, a card called Thought Scour. That is an instant that does that. And -8, draw 7 cards. Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So with Dramatic Scepter and Vega out, they'll allow us to draw our entire library, and then we can play Jace. If we're able to do the Breach line with Reforge the Soul and God, I never remember what that card is called. I'm gonna have to look, and I feel embarrassed. Can I remember? No, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to go look. Battle Hymn. I don't know why I never remember. Anyway, Battle Hymn. If you're able to do the Underworld Breach, Reforge the Soul, Battle Hymn thing, and then play a Jace, then you don't have to worry about milling yourself out by wheeling 7 cards every time. Then you'll just win the game. Yes, so those are basically our what we are using to close out the game. And then, so let's look at our tutors. So I typically, in my casual EDH decks, even when I'm making them a high power, I tend to not use a lot of tutors because it's casual, and I like to, I don't know, I have this weird thing about always like trying to be on hard mode, in that I like to give myself like blocks in my way to make it harder, so that I feel like it's my piloting skill that won me the game. I'm not really sure. It's just me being competitive with myself. Don't worry about it. But this is a deck that definitely has the most tutors. Those being Word of Invention for 1, X blue, an instant with Improvise. So you can tap, when you cast a spell, you can tap your artifacts to pay for mana. Each artifact that you tap will give you 1 generic mana. And then, so you search your library for an artifact card with CMC X or less, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. So what this is looking to getting is getting your Isochron Scepter, getting your Aetherflux Reservoir, and it puts it into play at instant speed. So if you hold up mana, if you hold up a bunch of spirits, and then wait till someone's end step, or wait till someone who will inevitably trying to remove Kykar, to be able to sack all those spirits and then put in a big piece like that is pretty powerful. Looking at our other artifacts in there, being able to do this for 4 mana and just to make sure that you get your Sensei's Divining Top at instant speed is actually pretty cool too. Yeah, and then we also have Enlightened Tutor for 1 white mana. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, then put that card on top. So this will get your Sensei's Dividing Top, your Future Sight. I mean, some of our good enchantments in here that we have. We have Copy Artifact, Future Sight, Mana Echoes, Underworld Breach, and Whirlwind of Thought. So whatever. And then we have all of our mana and our win the game artifacts. So flexible card, a lot of good targets depending on where you're at in the game. Personal Tutor, search your library for a sorcery card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, put that card on top. So with this is primarily looking to grab Jai's Immolating Inferno. To be able to, when you're certain that you're going to be able to go off, to be able to go and get that. And then it is obviously not hard to draw a card in this deck because we have so many cantrips. And then Muddle the Mixture. For blue, an instant, counter target instant or sorcery spell with Transmute for 1 blue. So you pay 1 blue, you discard it, and you search your library for any card that has, in this case, CMC2, because Muddle the Mixture is a 2 mana value card. Mana value. CMC. 2 CMC card. So this can notably go get either piece of Isochron Scepter or Dramatic Reversal, or as a counter spell, or gets Underworld Breach, or, there's a lot of different cool things you can go grab with this card. It gets your Electrostatic Field. Probably not what you're going to get, but you could. And then finally, we have Long-Term Plans, 2 and a blue, an instant, search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put that card third from the top. So this is, of course, really good with wheels, because, you cast a wheel and then you can play this response. You put that card third from the top, and you're gonna draw it regardless. This is also insanely good with Sensei's Divining Top, because you put it third from the top, and then you pay the 1 to activate top, and then now you put it on top of your library. Granted, you've paid 4 mana to do that, but hey, we're in Jeskai. We do what we must. Yeah, and the fact that it allows you to get any card, so you can get Elsha, and so, because in Jeskai you're going to be restricted to artifacts, enchantments, and instants or sorceries. There's this is pretty much the only card that allows us to get creatures. So the fact that it can get Elsha, it can get one of our other utility creatures, it can get Treasonous Ogre, is super, super good. Love that card. I feel like more people should play it. Yeah, so with that, let's look at our actual card draw. So in here, of course, like I mentioned, we have Vega the Watcher, a bird for 1 white blue, a legendary creature, Bird Spirit, notable from Mana Echoes. A 2/2 with flying. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card. I'm sorry, I forgot to put it up on the screen, so I read it to you. Yeah, love that card. Really good with Underworld Breach, with the Future Sight or Elsha top combo. Pretty much there is so much of our deck where we are not casting from our hand. So I threw it in to be able to try it. And I've liked it so far. And what I did include in here, though, is Whirlwind of Thought, 1 blue, red, white, an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. I think, let's see, 36, 49. We have 54 non-creature spells in this deck. You're going to draw cards. And then, of course, I love spells like Echo of Eon, like Time Twister like effects. So we have Time Spiral for blue. Remove time, so exile Time Spiral. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draw 7 cards, and you may untap 6 lands. So this is really nice. Like I don't run High Tide in this deck, but it is, but I do run like bounce lands. So there are definitely ways where you can net extra mana off of this, but also just to be able to untap 6 lands and keep basically refuel your mana to be able to keep storming off is very good. It's also graveyard hate as well when you're running up run up against other graveyard decks. And then Echo of Eons for blue. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards, and then has flashback for 2 and a blue. So it's effectively a Time Twister. I love the art on that card. It's so beautiful. And then, of course, more wheels. Wheel of Fate. It has to spend 4 for 1 and a red. And then when it gets to go off, each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. And then Ancestral Vision. Suspend 4 for a blue. Target player draws 3 cards. What I love about suspend cards with Kykar is that you just, you pay the suspend cost and you wait for them to go down. And then, especially with suspend 4, you're probably going to have, if you drop either of these turn 1, you're probably going to have Kykar in play by the time it goes off. So you get a free spell, basically, and you get to get a spirit out of it. And you get to draw cards. It feels really nice. And then with Suspend 2, it also works well with the Vega because you're not casting them from your hand, so you get to draw an extra card. I really like the Suspend cards with Kykar because, specifically in a casual build, because whenever you get to cast them, just getting that extra free mana, I think it's cool, and I think it makes it worth it for me. I have... Mox Tantalite in here, which has Suspend 3, and then for 0 mana, and when it comes off Suspend, you get a mana rock that adds 1 mana of any color. That's great. It's fine. It's a casual deck. I don't care. I'm going to play cards I like. It's the one deck I can put that card and have it make any kind of sense. But yeah, so let's see here. That's our actual card draw, and then this is like one of 2 decks that I have that actually run counter spells. So our kind of small counter suite that we have, because I don't play counter spells in casual, although I should. It's something I'm working on. I'm gonna put more counter spells and things, but the ones that I'm running in here are Jovin's Veto, white blue. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. Really good at protecting you while you're going off and saying, no, shh, I'm winning the game now, please. Flusterstorm, an instant for 1 blue, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 1 generic, and it has Storm. So eventually this is looking to be the last piece of interaction that you're going to look to deploy to either protect yourself, or if someone else is going off, you can be like, hey, I'd rather you didn't do that. Or I'd really rather you didn't cast this board wipe right now because my entire value engine will be destroyed. And then we have Disallow, 1 blue. Counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. I really like this spell. It's unfortunately not good enough for CDH, but I think I really love the flexibility of it to be able to hit activated or triggered abilities, because I know that there are a couple people in my play group who play Super Friends decks, and to be able to counter a Planeswalker ultimate is really nice. Someone else in our play group has a Gavi Nest Tender, and to be able to like counter one of those bullshit cycling abilities. Oh my god. Yeah. And to be able to just have it be a regular cancel when you need it to be, with the upside of also acting as a stifle. I think it's cool. I really like the spell. And then Classic Swan Song. An instant for a blue, counter target enchantment, instant or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 burb. So notably, with Copy, Artifact, Isochron Scepter, Swan Song, and Dramatic Reversal, there's a way, it's called the Angry Birds combo, and it makes me very happy. There's basically a way where you have your Dramatic Reversal under your Isochron Scepter, and then you cast Copy Artifact, which is an enchantment that says, basically make a copy of another artifact you control. And then so you'll make a copy of Isochron Scepter. And then it's like, oh, hey, you need to imprint something. So you're like, cool. So you imprint Swan Song underneath that Isochron Scepter, your copied one that you've just made. And then I'm not going to explain it all out, but basically, through activating your Isochron Scepters, you can get infinite swans. And then you just need to make it a turn cycle or find a way to give them haste. Not really like a thing this deck is looking to do, since there are some easier ways that we can go off and win, but it's something it can do, which I think is neat. And let's see here. So that's our counter suite. And then, of course, very important, removal and protection for ourselves. So the removal that we're basically running in here is Swords to Plowshare. Exile target creature for 1 white mana. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Path to Exile for 1 white. Exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield. Tap. Then shuffle their library. Pongify. Destroy target creature for a blue. It can't be regenerated. Its controller creates a 3/3 green ape creature token. Lightning Bolt for 1 red mana. Lightning Bolt does 3 damage to any target. And then we have Wear and Tear. Basically 2 spells on 1 card. And you can choose to play both by paying both of the mana costs. So Wear is 1 generic and a red. Destroy target artifact. And Tear for 1 white. Destroy target enchantment. And then for our sweeper, we have Supreme Verdict for 1 white, white, blue. It can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. For one of those oh shit buttons when you have slow starts and it feels bad. Something that's cool with Path to Exile. One of the creatures that we're running in here is Feather the Redeemed. So Feather the Redeemed is a 3/4 angel for red, white, white, and she's a flyer. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets a creature you control, you exile that card. And then you exile it instead of putting it into your graveyard, and then at your end step, you get it back to your hand, or as it resolves. And if you do, you put it in exile as it resolves instead of your graveyard. And then if you do that, then that you get to return that card to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So, kind of a really neat thing that you can do. So if you have Kykar, Feather, a Spirit, and Path to Exile, and some amount of white mana, you can cast your Path to Exile, target your Spirit token, and then you get, and since you controlled the Spirit, you get to get a basic and put it into the battlefield tapped, and then you exile Path to Exile from Feather's ability, and then you go to the end step and you return it to your hand, and because you've cast a non-creature spell, Kykar is like, hey, get a Spirit. And then you can do that over the course of a turn cycle and get, 4 lands in play, only restricted by the amount of white mana that you have available, and being able to do this basically once per turn, which is cool. Or if you have one of the cantrips that targets a creature that you control, like Crimson Wisp, you have Kykar, Feather, a Spirit, and Crimson Wisp. You cast Crimson Wisp, target your Spirit. Kykar's like, oh, hey, you cast a non-creature, get another Spirit. And then Feather's like, great, exile that card and get it back. So now you've actually gained mana off of that, and you've drawn a card for basically no initial mana investment, that's neat. I don't get to do it often. People generally remove Feather immediately for good reason, but yeah, there's a lot of cool different synergies in the deck where a lot of the cards provide a lot of flexibility, even if their effects seem really narrow. Which is, I think, one of the things I like most about this deck. But yeah, that's the removal. And then I have cards, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was like the new Strix Haven cards that I'm going to be putting in here. I haven't put them in here yet. I've got to order them. I just did an overhaul of my Brutaclad deck, which will be the next deck that I talk about in a video probably. But I want to talk about the new cards that I'm going to put in here that I think are from Strix Haven that I think are really, really cool, that I think are going to do really well. It's always so hard figuring out what to take out. Maybe I'll take out Realm Fury Storm. Maybe. Alright, first up we have Varen, Voice of Duality, 1 blue-red, a 2/2 legendary creature, a free wizard, with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Varen gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And if casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Hey, double spirits with Kykar! So many spirits! Wow. That'll be so good. Oh man, so good. I can't wait to do that. And then Stormkill Artist, because we need treasure. A Dwarf Shaman for 3 and a red. Stormkill Artist gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. Don't care about that. Magecraft. When you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. Oh boy. Give me more mana, please. I would love it. And then Archmage Emeritus, 2 blue for a 2/2 human wizard. Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So, super nice. Definitely wonderful ways, since, of course, we're trying to sling a bunch of spells, make treasures, draw cards. If either one of these are out with Varen's out, that Magecraft ability is going to trigger twice, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. More value is more better, right? And then Ryonia, the fire... Ryonia? Ryonia? Tell me how to pronounce her name in the comments. A fire dancer for 3 red, a 3/4 legendary creature, human wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instants and sorceries that you've cast this turn. They gain haste, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So it's really cool. If this is a turn that it seems like you're going to go off, you can cast a bunch of your cantrips first main, get your spirits. As long as you have, one left, you can go to combat, trigger her, just poop out tons and tons of spirits, and then don't even have to swing, whatever, go to your second main phase, sack all of those for mana and cast a gigantic giant immolating inferno, or whatever. So I think that could be really cool. I think it's definitely the most narrow of the includes, but I'm willing to try it once just to see how she does. I think it could be really neat. Might be a little bit more, but yeah, new cards are exciting, and this deck hasn't had really any major upgrades. Oh my god, cat. In quite a while. Sorry, my cat knocked over my water bottle with her very swishy and very fluffy tail. And then the last one is solve the equation, 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Search your library for an instant or sorcery, reveal it, and put it in your hand and shuffle. So it's nice just to have a tutor that just puts it into your hand. There are a lot of juicy targets that we could get with this. Yeah. That is pretty much everything. This is a super, super fun deck. I highly recommend trying it out if you love Storm decks, if you love Jeskai, if you like decks that are really flexible and can win in a variety of ways, then while maintaining sort of this core central concept, I highly recommend proxying it up or playing it on Cockatrice or Moxfield and testing it out. Tell me what you think. Tell me what other cards that you would slot in and stuff like that. Kykar is a card that I just absolutely adore. And I don't get to play this deck very often because we don't often play sort of high-powered casual Magic. But every time I get to play it, I have the most fun. And actually, as sort of a promotional thing, this Saturday, the 16th? what are days even? The 15th. The 15th. I am playing in the MLC draft, which is the Major League Commander draft, where myself and 31 other CDH players, a mix of excellent players and content creators, are having this tournament, I guess you could say. Basically, a league. A league, there we go. Much as they do in the sports ball, where we are all paired up into different, or grouped up into different conferences, and then each week, we play a game with people either outside of a conference or within a conference. And yeah, so this Saturday, I'm not playing Kykar. This Saturday, I'm playing Omnath against some really cool people, and I will be streaming that and then posting that game here on the YouTube page. So look out for that. But I did draft Kykar as one of my decks. Obviously not this build. This could not compete. But a CDH build of this deck that does Underworld Breach Storm things. So definitely follow me on Twitter at StephSH to see when I'll tell you when I get to play that deck. And you can come watch, and I'll be streaming on, thanks to Mental Misplay, I'll be streaming my games on their Twitch channel, and then I'll be taking them and probably uploading them to my YouTube for all perpetuity. So yeah, do the thing. Follow me at StephSage on Twitter, Instagram. I have a Facebook page where I post updates and stuff like that. You can check out this deck on Moxfield, where you can also see all of my other brews. You can check out my MLC lists and what I'll be playing. And yeah, I think that pretty much does it. Yeah, friends, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.